I never believed in the saying that clowns were supposed to bring joy and laughter. For me, they have always been one of the creepiest things on earth. It all started when I was just a kid, and my parents took me to the circus. As soon as a clown appeared, my heart started pounding, and I could feel a chill run down my spine. But little did I know that the fear I had for clowns was nothing compared to the horror that was about to unfold in my life. It was a cold and foggy Halloween night, and my friends and I decided to explore an abandoned circus that had been shut down decades ago. We were all thrill seekers, always on the lookout for adventure and adrenaline rush. As we entered the abandoned circus, the eerie silence was broken by the sound of creaking old wooden panels and the rustling of dried leaves. We made our way into the main tent, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The place looked as if time had stood still, as if the performers had left in a hurry, leaving their costumes and props behind. The silence was deafening, and we all felt like we were being watched, but we shrugged it off, wanting to explore every nook and cranny of the abandoned circus. We wandered further into the tent. We stumbled upon a room that used to be the clown's changing area. The room was filled with old costumes, face paint, and props, but there was one thing that caught my eye: a red and white striped suit. It was old and tattered, but something about it drew me in. Without hesitation, I put it on, and my friends laughed, saying I looked like a creepy clown. But little did I know that putting on that suit was the worst decision of my life. As we continued our exploration, we heard a faint sound of music playing. Thinking that someone must have turned on a music box, we followed the sound deeper into the abandoned circus. But as we got closer, the music stopped, and we were greeted by a chilling sight: a clown. A beautiful yet terrifying clown. She had a porcelain mask with a painted-on smile that seemed to never fade. Her eyes were piercing, and her red hair flowed in curls down her back. We couldn't believe our eyes. We were standing in front of a real-life clown, and she was beckoning us to follow her. Without thinking, we followed her into a room that looked like a workshop. The shelves were filled with creepy dolls, old puppets, and broken toys. The clown motioned for us to sit, and we did as we were told, too afraid to defy her. She then proceeded to tell us a story that sent shivers down our spines. She told us that she was once the star performer at this circus, a beautiful and talented clown loved by all. But one day, a new performer came and stole her spotlight. The clown was filled with envy and rage, and one night, she snapped. She killed the new performer, but her soul was not at peace. Her spirit remained trapped in the abandoned circus, and she was forever doomed to seek revenge on anyone who dared enter. As she finished her story, we could feel a chill in the air, and the room suddenly turned icy cold. The clown's voice changed, becoming hoarse and sinister. Without warning, she lunged at us, her porcelain mask cracking and revealing a decaying face underneath. We screamed and ran, trying to find our way out of the circus. But the clown was determined to keep us there, and she chased us through the corridors, her laughter echoing all around us. We finally made it back to the main tent, and we could see the exit. But before we could reach it, the clown appeared in front of us, blocking our way. She had brought the props to life, and they were all after us. We ran, dodging flying bats, giant spiders, and falling knives. As we reached the exit, we could see the first rays of sunlight breaking through the fog. The clown disappeared, and the props lay still. We were safe, but we could never forget the horror that we had just experienced. From that day on, I never looked at clowns the same way again, and whenever I hear the sound of circus music, I'm reminded of the night that my fear of clowns turned into my worst nightmare. This happened when I was a freshman in high school. During this time, I lived at home with my parents and older sister. We lived in what I would describe as a pretty average neighborhood. Our backyard was sort of big, but overall it was a very populated area. So one night, I was at home playing video games in my bedroom. My sister was in her room, and my parents were out in the living room. I always liked to play video games in my room, and I had a really good setup in there. I had my gaming chair, big monitor, and a TV as well. I remember that after gaming for a long time, I got to a loading screen. I leaned back in my chair to stretch, and I casually looked to my right out of my bedroom window. The window looked out to the backyard, and at the back of the yard was a small woods. Something caught my eye when I looked out there. It looked sort of like there was a clown looking at me from just inside the woods. At first, I thought surely that wasn't the case. I kept looking and was squinting my eyes to see better. It sure looked like there was a clown there. So, I got up from my chair and walked over to the window. Now that I had a better view, I could see that there was, in fact, a clown there. Or at least somebody that was wearing a clown mask. They were standing just a couple of feet into the woods, partially blocked by trees, but the clown was looking right at our house, possibly at my window. It was extremely creepy to see this. I ran out of my bedroom and found my parents in the living room. I told them there was some guy dressed as a clown in the backyard. They followed me to my bedroom window, but when we got there, whoever this guy was now gone. I told my parents where he was and everything. We all went outside after that and looked around the backyard. Although I was really creeped out, luckily we didn't see or hear anything when we were out there. The woods in our backyard were not that big. It only went back probably 20 feet, and then there was a fence. I was guessing whoever this guy was went through the neighbor's yard. At least he wasn't in our yard anymore. It was a real mystery as to who he was and what exactly he was doing back there. We all went back inside, and I went back to what I was doing. I looked out of my window every so often, but luckily the clown man did not return. The next couple of days were normal, no signs of the clown or anything. But it was less than a week later, and I found myself home alone. My parents were gone at friends, and my sister was at a friend's house also. I was playing video games in my bedroom, and it was probably about 9 o'clock at night. It was the same setup as the previous time. I ran RLY, looked out of my window, which was to my right about 15 feet away. I saw the clown guy again. This time, he was not in the woods but standing in the middle of the backyard, much closer. He was facing me and looking directly at my window. I got up and ran over to the window and covered it with my shades. I then ran out of my bedroom as quickly as possible. I didn't know what to do. Why would the clown guy come back? I called my parents and told them about it. They advised me to call the police if he didn't leave the yard immediately. So I looked out of another window, but I didn't see the guy anymore. I was hoping that meant that he left. I got off the farm with my parents and then looked out of several other windows. I didn't see the clown. Then I headed back to my bedroom. When I was walking in though, I heard a knock at the front door. I went over and checked out the front window and saw the clown. He was standing on the front step. I just moved away from there and ignored it. I went back into my bedroom, put my headphones on, and forced myself to just play video games. I did that until my parents got back home. When they did, the clown guy was long gone. After that night, I kept my bedroom window covered at all times. I also didn't stay home by myself for several weeks because I was too creeped out to. I'm not sure if the clown guy ever came back or not, but I didn't see him or hear from him. I've always been uneasy around clowns. Their exaggerated smiles, painted faces, and unpredictable antics send shivers down my spine. But what happened last summer solidified my fear into something much darker, a horror that still haunts my dreams. It was a typical summer day, the sun blazing overhead, and the air thick with humidity. My friends and I decided to hit up the local carnival that had just rolled into town. Despite my reservations about clowns, I couldn't resist the allure of carnival games and sugary treats. As we wandered through the crowded fairgrounds, the colorful tents and bright lights did little to ease my unease. Every corner seemed to hold a new clown, each one more unsettling than the last. They grinned maniacally, their eyes following our every move. We eventually stumbled upon a tent labeled "The Clown's Denver." My friends, oblivious to my discomfort, eagerly dragged me inside. The interior was dimly lit, filled with eerie decorations and the sound of distorted circus music. As we made our way through the maze of corridors, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was as if the clowns were lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, the lights flickered and dimmed, plunging us into darkness. Panic surged through me as I heard my friends' panicked voices calling out to each other in the blackness. And then the laughter began. It started softly, a sinister chuckle echoing through the darkness. But it quickly escalated into a cacophony of maniacal cackles, filling the air with a sense of dread. As the lights flickered back to life, I found myself alone in the maze. My heart pounded in my chest as I stumbled through the corridors, searching desperately for an exit. But every turn seemed to lead me deeper into the labyrinth of horrors. That's when I saw him, the clown that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. He stood in the center of the room, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. His eyes bore into mine, filled with a malevolent gleam. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips as the clown began to advance towards me, his footsteps echoing ominously against the cold, hard floor. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as I frantically searched for a way out. But there was no escape. The clown was everywhere, his laughter echoing in my ears as he closed in on me. And then darkness consumed me. When I finally regained consciousness, I was lying on the cold ground outside the tent, my friends hovering over me with looks of concern. They told me I had collapsed inside the maze, but when they went to find help, the tent had vanished without a trace. I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare, a figment of my overactive imagination. But deep down, I knew the truth. The clown had been real, and he had come for me that night, leaving behind only the chilling memory of his sinister laughter. If you want to see more horror stories, check out my next video.